yes you can. And I sniff it, 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 yes you can. Mom's on. And I sniff it to all the people who like frags like Charm City does. Made this track so you really know what live was. Come together over fragrances. That's the why, cuz getting love and support from the vibers. Put your sense of the day in the chat, cuz no wrong sense where whatever and for just because. Positivity and love with a live hug. A life full of fragrance is what I love. Finding hidden gems from Dior to Rosia Dove. Negativity and fighting is what we're above. Try to diss, we throw up the hand with a big shrug. Like a card of positives, it's a plus love. If you wanna cause drama, won't even think of us. The connoisseurs fly high like a dove. And I sniff it, yes you can. 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 And I sniff it with my frags that I can spray in layers. A connoisseur, but also a poem sayer. At times a live studio purveyor. Won't choke you out, but not a sissy sprayer. Hit the like, you'll be doing us a really big favor. Subscribe if this track has a lot of flavor. Rest in peace, Fife Dog, who's resting with our savior. Follow us for the fragrance behavior. Make a note of the fragrances we gave you, one by one, or apply them in layers. Do you like the fragrances we share? Keep an open mind, don't be a naysayer. Find some new frags that you can savor. Doesn't matter if you're minor or major. From niche to designer, we're the player. As you inhale like a breath of fresh air.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Let me start it over here on the IG side. We are getting started, and we got some people in the chat. We'll get started already. IBG. Yes, sir. You were a day early, but I appreciate the support. We got the Scent Bubble in the house. Scent Bubble, I reached out to you earlier. We're going to get you on a live coming up shortly. So good to have you in the house, sir. Nate the Great, of course. What's up, fam? You really fam. So good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see. We got Red Spence in the house with Bra Imperial. So nice. Scent Bubble. Yep, there you go. There you go. We got Nate the Great. And let's see. Dame is in the house. Yes, please, everybody smash the like button. We are trying to be consistent. I am trying to get Mondays is my night. It will be either 7 or 7:30. All depends on how things roll out. But Monday is the night, and we got a lot of things coming that I will talk about just shortly. So we got the man in the building. I know I also owe you a call, sir. And we got everybody saying what's up to everybody. Miss Teresa, welcome, man. Good to see you. And let's see, we got Joel's in the building. He is the FragComs moderator. Just that's it. If you don't have him with a blue wrench, you just don't know about the fragrance community. He is FragComs moderator. That is my man Joel. Welcome, sir. And let's see, it looks like we are getting scent of the day is Rosia T at BG. Nate, you really need to stop using my fragrance up because you won't have anything left to sell me. So I'm just saying. But I want to real quick go with my scent of the day is Ovation for Men. And this is Ovation Fragrances. And this was one that I got during Black Owned Fragrance Week. He sells it on Amazon. He actually has a contract directly with Amazon. Nice signature fragrance. It has cardamom in it. It's got aquatic notes. Definitely, cardamom off the top is going to be something that I love. And it has leather, tobacco, and vanilla, and then amber in the base. Really nice fragrance, a signature fragrance. Note that's not listed is iris, but to me, there's a powdery elegance. It would give you that kind of like that powdery elegance of Dior Homme, maybe Parfum, not as quite as intense as Dior Homme Intense, but really nice signature, not a clone of Dior Homme, anything like that, but has that similar powdery elegance to it. Nice fragrance, not a bad price. You can get it on Amazon.com. Ovation for Men. Great fragrance. So we will continue on. We got Mr. Percy in the building and All World Fragrance. I missed him. There you go. Scent of the day is Manhattan Midnight City Rhythm. I had Manhattan, or at least I had a sample. I had a lot of samples of it. I like Austin. Manhattan is a nice tobacco fragrance. I'd have to see what the Midnight is. I would be curious to see what is happening with that one. Dame is saying Ovation is heat. It's an easy grab. It is definitely an easy grab. It is a nice signature scent. So I definitely like that. And we got Vaughn B chilling in the house. All right. Well, great show. I've actually been in contact with these two brothers in FragCon for a while. We've been trying to work out schedules together. And when the time that I thought I was going to have it is when things started happening with family situations. But we are here now, and I definitely want to introduce these guys to you. They are part of the fragrance community. They are reviewers and have their own YouTube channel. And definitely, I tagged them in the description. Check them out. It's worth a look. And definitely, I'm glad that they decided to come on the show so that we could talk about fragrances and just chop it up about the things that we love, because we are all fragrance fanatics over here. And what better thing to talk about than fragrances? First one is I'll bring up Gator, and he can introduce himself to everybody if anybody doesn't know. And then we'll bring up the Sillage Saint with Meech. So the Novice Knows, first to the stage. Welcome, sir. You are muted. I can see that part, so you might want to unmute.
Oh yeah, I know, man, because I was over here gagging, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, let me make sure I'm muted, just in case you kind of, throw it to me, man, and I'm up here coughing up a lung. I'm trying out this new energy drink or whatever I got, on discount, and it's kind of harsh. Anyway, Anyway, what's going on, everybody? It's your man Gator, better known as the Novice Knows out here in these fragrance streets, man. And of course, like Charm was saying, man, I have my own YouTube channel, the Novice Knows. Also co-host of Dope Discussions Live that I do with Erica Warren, and the Down 5 podcast that I do with my boy, Ralston. So, yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Love it.
All right, and last but definitely not least, we got the Sillage Saint. And I've been following him for a good little while. And definitely he's got a great channel. You should check him out as well. And up to the stage, Meech, the Sillage Saint.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Charm, appreciate you having me on. As he said, I'm Meech, a.k.a. the Sillage Saint. Kind of a newbie somewhat in this space, but really excited to be on. Gator is my man. I love all you guys' content. Gator, Charm, I watch all of your stuff. Charm, you're like you become like my fragrance sensei, man. I could pull out like 5 samples literally like around me right now that I have of fragrance recommendations you made. Like right now I'm looking at Al Karachi blend. I'm looking at Silver Birch by Amarud. I saw that as one of your scent of the days some time ago, and I was like, man, I'm gonna check that out. And then I got what is the one by, is it Wave Child? I think I just recently grabbed that one.
Room 1015?
Yeah, Plum and Cognac. And
man, that's a nice
one. And Zenji as well. So I'm like, man, listen, man, if you don't believe I watch your stuff, that is proof positive right there that I'll be watching all your stuff, man. So I appreciate you having me on. And Gator's my man. I know we go back and forth on different fragrances. We review some of the same stuff, so it's always good to engage with Gator and have these conversations. So I'm excited to be here.
Yep.
Well, Sean will put you on some stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Listen,
he got me on Dewan right now, so I'm about to get a full bottle of Dewan.
That's next. That's next. I've been hearing about that one too. I got to check that one out.
Dewan, I'm telling you, Arabian Oud owes me some money.
Yeah,
because I get nothing from them for that. But Dewan is definitely one of those ones that I really like. There's only one sensei. Joe says he's a sensei.
Oh, my bad. Joe, I gotta give Joe credit because it was probably you and him that put me on to Hot Night by the Attar collection. So that's another one. And Joe, shout out to Joe because I know he was waving the flag for that one too. So that's another one that
the funny thing,
you guys' recommendations.
The funny thing is that a lot of Middle Eastern fragrances that I have, Joel has, and that Joel has, I have. And we didn't even know until I started doing the Scents of the Day. And then we started seeing some of the ones that we had in common.
Yeah.
It's really, he's got a dope fragrance collection.
Yeah.
And it's some ones that not everybody knows about, like Kaltat Night and some of those things. Those are really nice. Those are really nice. So
shout out to my guy Scent Bubble. That's my guy too. I was on his channel some months back. So
yeah, I saw that when when they did the fragrance wheel, right?
The wheel of fragrance. Yeah, that was
yeah.
And Gator's done that one too. I know he's done that one too with Scent Bubble. So
yeah, that's always fun, man, to try to put yourself in situational scenarios where it's like, what would I wear to this yacht party? Let me look and see what I got that's going to actually fit into the, So yeah, those are good exercises, man. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun stuff, unique stuff.
All right, so first question I'm going to ask for both of you guys, and then we're going to get into some of the things that we have to go for today. First question: how did you start your YouTube channel, and when did you start? So let's start with me on the bottom, and then we'll go to Gabe.
Okay, so I probably started my YouTube channel. I feel like it was like October of 2023. So I haven't been doing it very long. I got introduced to like the entire world of FragCom. I think I shared this story on a couple of my videos. I was trying to find information on Cremo, Spice, and Black Vanilla, which is like it's like a $20 fragrance. Like I don't know that I needed that much of an in-depth, review on it. Kind of smells like Spice Bomb Extreme. If you aren't familiar with it, it kind of has that DNA. And I saw some videos from like Darren, the bow tie fragrance guy. I think he was like one of the first people I watched, and he had a review on that, which is kind of surprising because he talks about a lot of niche, but he has a couple of videos where he kind of talks about cheapies and things like that. And so when I was kind of first getting started, a lot of the things I was buying was kind of on the cheaper side, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. So I started to have a little bit of a collection, and people that knew me, knew that I, had fragrances and would ask me questions and different things like that. And then kind of being inspired from seeing, other content creators, I was like, man, I'm going to take a stab at this. And I did a video, like I said, like October 2023. It was horrible. It was, I was doing this thing. I was doing this thing called Smell Good Sundays. That was the first video I did. And I would kind of just do like a little 2-minute bit kind of highlighting the fragrance. And I talked about Dolce & Gabbana's The One EDP, which I know that's obviously a classic fragrance in the world of FragCom, but many people that, I hung out with and were in my circles knew nothing about it. So I was initially kind of sharing it with people that I know. And then I decided to transfer it to YouTube, and then from there, kind of the rest is history. So
okay, so we kind of got when you started. I didn't start that much earlier than you did. I started in July 2023.
oh, okay, wow, okay.
But so and it kind of talked about the why. So I guess the why was you started with kind of like the one you had the Smell Good Sundays.
Yep.
But what made you want to give your opinion on fragrances? Just like because you watched Bowtie, you watched some other people. What made you feel like, hey, I got a voice and I want to go out there and give my opinion on it as well?
So I've always like had this thing, like I actually kind of went to school. I don't do it for my job, but I actually kind of I went to school for like radio TV. So I was always doing different. I've done probably like 8 different podcasts with friends, and just so I was always looking for some type of broadcasting outlet, like somewhere to just kind of scratch that itch a little bit. And then once I started to collect fragrances and kind of grow a love for that, I was like, you know what, why not talk about that, really to inform those around me who like to smell good but maybe didn't know about some of these fragrances. And that was kind of really the why behind it all for me. So
all right, well, Gator, now let's get your take on that.
Oh yeah. Well, long ago in a galaxy far away. No, man.
That Barry White voice, I gotta take it down a notch just to talk to him.
Right. No, man, similar scenario, man, to with me, Chad. I've always dabbled in music and everything. Always back in the day, putting out a couple of bootleggish EPs and things like that. Always been into it, man. And I was always into fragrances. It wasn't like I didn't go overboard on it, but I was always into it, man. As a big guy, you got to at least smell good. So I was always into it, man. And, around the pandemic, man, and a little bit before that, actually, started dabbling more into the podcast realm. I was talking about Dope Discussions, me and Erica. That was long standing where we were doing shows, just relationship shows, and doing Down 5 was just locker room talk. We were just doing the most outlandish, craziest, stupidest, nutcase type things that we could possibly do, but it was just all in fun. It's just an outlet for those, creative thoughts and things that I had, man. Right. And like I said, I was always into fragrances, and it's something that, I always wanted to, bolster the collection, do all those things, but I really started to grow it a lot right around the time the pandemic happened, man. And I started really kind of diving head off into it even more. Like I said, I had a love for it, but I wasn't as versed in why this fragrance smells the way that it is. I wasn't as invested in the art of fragrance as I was, oh, this smells good, So I started to pick up certain things, learning a good bit of, about things, and I started kind of growing my collection. When I got married, it was a scenario where my wife's just kind of looking at how fast the collection, because I ended up giving up 100 bottles out of my previous collection, actually back in like 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic. And when I started reaccumulating bottles right after the pandemic or whatever, and my wife's looking at all these bottles coming in, and she literally is like, don't you dare buy another damn bottle, don't you bring another bottle in this house unless you're gonna talk about it. Because I would be sitting there talking to her and breaking down the fragrance notes and why this does this and why this does that, and she's like, okay, cool, I'd make you a deal. You can bring in another bottle, but you're gonna have to talk about it. So I was like, okay, and got on and just started recording, man. So it became a creative outlet, as well as me being able to really kind of play in a wheelhouse that I love to play in, which is fragrances.
Nice. So we have Central Explicit with Precious Treasure by Zahar, but also Mr. Clark, and it went up there, but you got the elemental. So I just got the full elemental set, and I smelled Cashmere Sex. That's a nice one as well. Elemental is one that is a good one to kind of get your nose on. But all right, so what was your guys' kind of first signature fragrance?
You want me to start?
Ooh, I gotta think about that one.
So it's funny because I knew you were gonna ask something like this. I figured in this setting, that type of question would come up. So I think my first memory of like actually having a fragrance was probably Cool Water. And I was like a teenager, and Snoop Dogg said he had the Johnson baby powder and the Cool Water cologne, and everybody was wearing Cool Water.
That's
back when I was like
he did
high school
like the remix of Lottie Dottie, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So that was probably I remember like that probably being the first fragrance that I really liked, and then I think like that was around the time like Curve was coming on the scene, things of that nature. But like as an adult, I would probably say one of those first signature scents for me was Burberry Touch. That was like a fragrance that really was one that I liked and I wore a lot. Later on, a fragrance like Invictus, that was another one that really kind of resonated with me before I even got into like fragrances. When I just only had maybe a couple, those were kind of like my signatures.
I have 4 bottles of Burberry Touch.
Yeah.
But now I started even earlier because like my first fragrance that I think I bought with my own money was Drakkar Noir.
Okay.
I think that was in like 1981, 1982. And I was pretty young, but yeah. So cool. What about you, Gabe?
Oh man, I had to think about that for a second, man, because Aqua di Gio was this is back in the 90s. Aqua di Gio was one that I was like, oh, let me get my hands on this. Oh, I smell good. Everybody talking about I smell good. I'm gonna keep on with this one, man. And then I had a young lady introduce me to, oh, what was it? I know it was one of the Creeds, and I want to say it was Green Irish Tweed. It may have been. All I know is that I got sticker shock when, because I think I was telling you about this, Sean, where I can't tell my wife about it, but I would have like, these young ladies would be buying me, different colognes and stuff like that. So, buy that Creed right there or buy that whatever. And then when it was time for me, getting out of college, man, and I'm like, okay, let me go buy me another bottle of this. It costs how much? Oh, hell no. So then I really started getting into the Aqua di Gios and those types of fragrances, man.
Yeah. And everybody goes through a transition. I mean, the funny thing is if you've been watching a lot of fragrance reviewers, and I'm talking about a lot of them, even the ones that are established now, and they look like niche snobs. You watch some of their first videos, they were rack stores. They were clones. So it's not everybody starts in a different place, and you kind of cultivate a fragrance connoisseur mentality, I'd say.
Oh yeah.
Pimp Strong, welcome, sir. And I see your first signature scent was Leighton. That's a strong first signature scent. And Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP. I wear Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP probably more than any other fragrance because that is my traveling fragrance. I have it in, I can even get my bag and I decant it and I bring that everywhere I go. So it's an easy reach. You can always it's easy to wear. But Leighton, that for a signature scent, that's nice. That's an interesting signature scent. But let's see what other ones. Wow. Okay. First ever brought was Gray
Flannel. Ooh.
Man, in 1987, Pimp Strong. You are pimping. You don't play. You don't play.
I don't want to make Pimp Strong feel bad, but I think my grandfather had gray flannel back in the day. You know.
Oh,
Sorry,
man. I had polo green, like I said, Dracar Noir. I bought Cool Water when it first came out. Polo green, Bijan Man. What else did I buy back in the day? I mean, the Aqua di Gios when they first came out, Eternity, Obsession. I got.
Yeah. Oh, Eternity was a bomb too. I used to try to wear a lot of that too, man. The Eternity, that throws back.
BT Sense, just wanted to say hello. Welcome, sir. Good to have you on. And BT, while you're doing your laundry, hey, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh yeah.
IBG, you finally came back. You were a day early. Welcome, sir. We got my man Rock Boy. Welcome, sir. So, first signature here, Marc Jacobs by Marc Jacobs EDT, early 2000s. Oh, yeah. Nice. Let's see. And even though the limited edition, one, I can say Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP for me. I have the limited edition as well, but to me, it's not that much better than the EDP. Now the EDP is that much better than the EDT. I will definitely say that. But for
that might be my problem, Charm.
Yeah, for $55 for a 6.8 ounce. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. That's why I say I spray that one with reckless abandon. If I come into a hotel room and it's just not, it smells a little musty, I'll just pull out. Because I'm like, hey, $55 for a 6.8 ounce, you can do whatever. You can do whatever.
Club de Nuit air freshener.
Yeah. You know? Maybe I got to give the EDP a chance because I got a sample of the EDT. We were talking about this before we came on air, and
you got to give the EDP or the limited edition. If you really, it's a different fragrance. To me, it's a different fragrance.
All right.
Now, after the EDT kind of dries down, it gets better, but that opening,
it does. That's
EDT
true.
Is kind of harsh.
Yeah, the opening is pretty harsh.
Yeah. I'm right there with you somewhere. I don't want to say exactly, but I'm right there with you somewhere. I grew up on Rakim and all the Big Daddy Kane. I still know all the words. I'm right there with you. Right there with you. Let's see. Nate said Burberry Brit. I used to like Burberry London too. When I was in my designer phase, I had all
Burberry
those.
London was good.
Yeah, I like Burberry Brit. They still sell that in stores.
Yeah, they do. And I didn't even realize, but a lot of them now, Burberry Touch is strong. It lasts.
Yeah.
Burberry London is kind of light, but I didn't realize it until I started getting some really denser, heavier fragrances that last. Yeah. But all those beginning ones. My man,
Burberry was the fragrance that taught me that you could overspray.
Oh yeah, I oversprayed that one a lot.
Oh man!
You know another one I had when I was in college. I had one of the weird, the Polo, the 360. You know, like the weird bottle with the like with the like the at the top.
Yeah,
like I don't know if you. I think it was the green one because the red one kind of smells like Aqua di Gio. But I forget what the green one was, but I had that one like when I was in college. So
Amani Code is also a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. Until September 20, all I ever wore was Curve Gold Bottle JPG Lamal and Cool Water. Wow. Until September 2020. That is my love of revolvers. I saw Zara wanted. I have a couple of revolvers, but I am not a revolver man. I am definitely. I don't like Glocks as much. Now I'm getting into guns because Glocks are not bad, but their triggers you got to reconstruct their triggers. Their triggers are sloppy. It's not tactile. It doesn't have a good feel. But yeah, but I do like 9mm, and I do, but yeah, that's a whole different story. But Millionaire or Pierre Cardin for me back in the day. Oh, nice. Let me see if I see any other ones. First signature. BT, I know your first signature was Club Day Nuit.
Hey man, listen, BT
I'm right
top
with you.
5.
I'm
Hey,
right
Club
with
Day
you.
Nuit EDP #1 every time. I'm like, I know what it's gonna be.
See what happened with me, and why I got in the Club Day Nuit Intense Man, is Nate was the first person to pony up for Aventus. So, I have kids, and I have kids in college, so I wasn't spending all that kind of money. But Nate, he paid $471 for Aventus, and we sprayed it, and it would last 4 hours. I'm like, man, $471 for 4 hours. I got kids going in college. I don't know if I can do that. Now, getting out of college, and so I don't have as many kids in college. Now I spend a lot more money. I can't believe how much I spend. But so that's when I got Club de Nuit Intense Man. It smelled a little synthetic. It wasn't as much, and I guess this is kind of bring us into what we're talking about. Yeah. But it lasted 10 hours on skin. I mean, Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP lasts the whole day. Before COVID, I would go into the office. Now we don't go in the office as much, but I would have to drive into DC, and I'd be at work for at least 8-9 hours, and it was an hour driving and an hour driving back to Maryland. And Club de Nuit, like a champ. Club de Nuit would last the whole time. You wouldn't have to reapply or anything. And that was the big difference. I can say Aventus smells really nice, but Club de Nuit gets me where I need to be.
Right, man. It's one of those things that'll last on you. Sometimes that's what you're looking for, man. I mean, there's a difference between the beauty and the art and hey, I just want to smell good. I just want to at least have that presentable smell throughout the day. I want to at least smell myself, something nice, right. So it'll definitely last, man. You spray it on. That's another one that you got to watch your sprays on, because I've experienced that where I oversprayed it the first time I actually wore it, and I nuked like half a block. So, yeah.
There you go. First thing, Mr. Gems, Hidden Gems. Welcome, sir. Aqua DGO and Sean John Unforgivable. Sean John Unforgivable was a nice fragrance.
Hey, that's a good. That is
no Diddy. It was a nice fragrance. No Diddy.
Yeah. It was funny. I got that fragrance. I'll never forget. I was working at this company. I was the only guy on the team, and we was a close-knit team. So like people birthdays and stuff like that, they would buy gifts, and all the ladies bought me Sean John Unforgivable. I'm like, y'all trying to tell me something? But but it was a nice gift. But yeah, that fragrance was a good fragrance back in the day for sure.
Club Day Febreze Intense. I know some people don't like it, but I'll tell you what, I get mad compliments every time I wear it.
Everybody says that. Everybody says they get compliments when they wear Club Day Nuit.
And I don't have the EDT. To me, it doesn't smell like lemon pledge, but I get mad compliments. I get mad compliments. But let's see. One cheat code. Encre Noir. I know. Scent Bubble, if there's one thing I know, you like Encre Noir a la Extreme.
Yeah.
That one is a vetiver bomb. I mean, I have that one. That one's a nice one. If you really like woody vetiver fragrances, that is one definitely to get. That is one.
I always call it my church pew fragrance.
Bubble is a vetiver guy. He's a vetiver guy. He likes vetiver fragrances.
Yeah. My man Dedrick Hicks Jr. in the building. What's going on, sir?
Salute
Let's see. Appreciate what you guys bring this fragrance space. Dedrick is definitely one of those ones that supports people as well. I really appreciate Dedrick. Not only is he on his grind as far as six videos a week and also doing lives, he also watches people as well. So definitely shout out to Dedrick. Welcome, sir.
Yep, I was watching his rotation this morning, so shout out to
Yeah.
Dedrick.
Yeah.
And he's a big wrestling fan, man.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that too.
yeah, and he's a big wrestling
Like,
fan.
you know,
You can't go
we're wrestling fans
you
too,
know
so
what
I
I'm
catch
saying?
his stuff he does with Ross.
Yeah,
You know, they do like a
Oh, yeah.
wrestling show, so I catch that too. So yeah, for sure. Shout out to Dedrick, no doubt.
Aqua di Gio, people saying. So let's get into it.
You.
We really, and like I said, we're going to bring the part 2 of this, and we're going to bring the scent bubble in as well. But I really want to talk to people because everything we keep going, and what I can say is that clones, inspirations, whatever you want to call it, they're here to stay. But there's a difference of opinion. And like I said, I've seen some of Scent Bubbles lives replay because I'm not up that late at night. But I've seen him on the replay, and I know that he is one that will say it's not worth spending all that money when you can get a clone. And then we have on the other side of it, we got Suits, who says he just doesn't deal with clones. And so I know that I've basically, like, some of my biggest videos have been clones. And I know you guys are kind of in the middle where you have some originals and some clones as well. And I definitely wanted to bring you guys on and we talk about it, but we are going to do kind of like a big live where I'm going to go through the cloning process and how they make it, because I found that interesting. I did some research and went through the process, but there are some, and everybody kind of says in a lot of videos, this is so good, I don't have to get the OG. And so my first question to you guys are, what clone or inspiration have you experienced that is so good that you say you don't have to get the OG?
Oh man, I got a couple just right off the top. Liquid Broom.
Liquid
To be
Broom
completely honest,
is good.
That
I
one
will have to say it
is.
surprised me.
Oh yeah, it surprised me. It really surprised me, man, because the way that thing presented initially, I had Altair. Me and my friend Red, we actually sat there and had the two side by side. After like 5 to 10 minutes, it's like, wait a minute, which one is which? I don't know what's happening here. So it was like, okay, that one is good. That's one that I could say, yeah, it definitely is going to replace the original, man. To be honest, I like F Le Parfum, that Y Le Parfum dupe, and I like that one a lot, actually, man. It gives a good bit of the feel, especially at the top of it, man. It gives a good bit of the feel that you would get from a Y. But I think as it goes into the dry down, it really becomes a little bit more linear than what you would have with Y. But for me, it's good enough. And to be completely honest, the way things are going right now with Y Le Parfum, it might have to be good enough because it looks like they've reformulated it and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, that's another one, man, that I definitely would say is good. And then I'm gonna have a little bit of a balance between Rifacat and Fierte. Now Rifacat is not quite Baby Cat. It's got a little bit more saffron at the top of that thing, a little bit more peppery in the nuance of it. It doesn't come across as smooth, but that thing's a monster, man. It performs really well in cold weather. It's one that I'm like, okay, am I going to try to go get Baby Cat for this? Nah, not really. Then I got introduced to Fierte, which is the French Avenue clone of it, and that's even better. It's got a little bit of a smoother entry point in there because I think they amp up a little bit of the vanilla in there, man. And but it still has that bite, that little saffron. It's just a little bit smoother, man. And into the dry down, it actually transitions into a beautiful like sandalwood and vanilla note. It's gorgeous, man. So I would take that one, and it's just as good, I would say, and lasts just as long as Baby Cat does. So those three, at least.
Right. I definitely say Liquid Broom definitely surprised me, as nice as it was. One thing I can say, and we'll get to Meech in a second.
Okay.
More linear fragrances, kind of mass appealing designer types, to me seem like they're easier to clone.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I see. And Altair is not, it is more of a linear. Baby Cat to me is also more of a linear type. It doesn't have as intricate of a transition. And so it seems that they are easier to kind of get close to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it looks like Pimp Strong had, that was the question that I asked, and this is how we all go into it. But Meech, so what's your take on it?
So my approach to it sometimes is if I've smelled the OG and then I smell the clone, if it scratches that itch for me, and depending on, like, for example, Al Haramain, I have it right here because I got some content I want to do on it, but Al Haramain, Amber Oud Aqua Dubai, this is an Imagination cologne. I've smelled Imagination, and like I know you love Imagination, Charm. I know. I just saw a video where you were like,
nobody talk about Imagination.
You're like, listen, you have to get your. He's like, I know there are other clones of Imagination out there, but you have to smell Imagination. Okay, I've smelled it, Charm. I've smelled it, but because of the price, hey, listen, you were talking about kids in college. I got a daughter graduate high school in June, and college is next. I don't know if I'm going to shell out the $350, $400 for Imagination. Amber Oud Aqua Dubai scratches that itch for me. I'm not saying it's 1-to-1, but it's kind of close enough to that DNA where I'll let it ride for now. Maybe some years from now, when I'm not paying for college, maybe I'll go revisit Imagination. But for now, it scratches that itch for me. That's one. I think Reg, he made a good point in the chat about Mahir Legacy by Lattafa. That's a Parfums Marley Sedley clone. That's a really good one.
Right, BT got me to get that one.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That kind of scratches the itch. And I'll say one. I don't know if you guys have smelled this one, Gator. You may have, but it's one by Lattafa. And I'm not the biggest Lattafa guy in the world. I'm more of like a Fragrance World guy. I have like a ton of Fragrance World, probably way too much. But they have a Coral Fantasy clone called Jasur.
Yeah.
And to me, the quality of Jasur is better than Coral Fantasy. It doesn't smell as synthetic as Coral Fantasy does to me.
Coral Fantasy is probably one of my favorite designer tobacco fragrances. So I definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, and Jasur, I think, is
the apple and tobacco.
Yeah, the apple tobacco is a bit aromatic. You know, it has that vibe going on. I feel like that one is like pretty spot on to Coral Fantasy, and for it is one of the better quality Lattafa fragrances that I've smelled. Like some other, Lattafa fragrance, sometimes they're all synthetic, but some of them are, a little more synthetic than others. And I feel like Jasur, it's just it smells a little more like Lattafa. It's a little more smoothed out with that one than some of the other Lattafas, like Kayed Al Farsan, super synthetic, smells nice, but really, really synthetic. Fakar Black, some other Lattafas like that. But Jasur is good. Those are three that kind of stick out to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Jasur is one of my favorite Lattafas, man, because of the fact that it does have it actually, that it's quality. Like some of the Lattafas, they get hit and miss with that, man. But Jasur is one of those that you can tell from the first time you spray it on that it has quality. It's got some depth to it. It's got actual heft to it, just as much, if not more, than what it's actually interpreting in that incident. Well, Lattafa's doing their thing, man. When they're on, man. Jasur, Vintage Radio is another one that's actually really good. Not quite Paragon, but it's there. But yeah, when they're hitting, man. So that was a good one.
Yeah,
I have another one too, just real quick. It's a Fragrance World fragrance, and I have the OG too, so I have or sample of it. It's called Glorious Oud Royal Blanc. It's a clone of Musk Therapy, and that one That and Must Therapy. I'm telling you, they're close. They're close to the point where I'm like, okay, I have this, 5 ml decant of Must Therapy. I'll wear that out. But now that I have Glorious Oud Royal Blanc, I'm like, I don't think I need to buy Must Therapy. And they totally rip off the bottle. So if somebody was looking on my shelf, they would know the difference anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an interesting one. Well, 6 Moss Houbigant Ambre des Abysses is really nice. I have that one. It's kind of a mint amber. It's really, really, that's a nice one. Tobacco Nomade is a good one from Houbigant as well. Those are, I can't wait to get my whole collection moved because I got stuff that's already unpacking up. But yeah, I have those in. But I'm gonna go down in the chat where we go to see what
I may have to write that one down. Houbigant Ambre des Abysses. Yeah, because I've been looking for like a nice mint for the spring. Like a really is it a deeper mint type of feel to it, or is it just kind of really an accent?
No, it has, it's a mint amber to me, and I haven't listed it as a scent of the day, and I haven't worn it in a while. But it's a nice one. It's a nice one to get your hands on it. That was one of my. I know you're I'm the blind buy bandit. You're the blind buy warrior. I blind bought Houbigant, but yeah. So let's see.
I've tried to fall back a little bit on my blind buying as of late, because now I'm experimenting with more niche stuff, and I've been more of a sample guy lately. So yeah.
I had just didn't remember Laudanum Weed Alone, but yeah, Laudanum Weed Alone has always been nice. Always been nice. Yeah. The whole line is nice. Let me see. CDM has COVID-19 level projection along. It definitely stays. It definitely stays. I love that.
Oh yeah.
I can see how far back I am. But the question I guess I wanna have is, now there are some that are very good. I've had a lot of clones of Sauvage Elixir that have been really good as well. That's another one that I think is more in that kind of linear style. But why? Give me some of the reasons why you would want to get a clone instead of original. I know some cases are the price point.
Yep.
And that's the reason why I had one Sauvage, and then so many clones came out of Sauvage, I never re-upped on it because it got so close to it, and the amount of money you pay for Sauvage for kind of a designer, sometimes to me felt like I'm paying what I would pay for a niche fragrance. So I would use that money and get a niche fragrance and then get a clone. I mean, Assad to me got you close enough in the neighborhood. Assad to me didn't have the performance that Sauvage has. But then there are some other ones that had really good performance as well. So what are some of the reasons why you guys bought a clone instead of going for the original? Because some people say, well, if you just save up, or if you got 10 clones, you could have gotten 2 originals or 1 original. So what's your guys' thought on that?
I mean, man, I for a couple different reasons, man. I mean, price points is a real thing. If I'm sitting there and I've got a fragrance that I'm looking at, Louis Vuitton or something like that, that's $400, and I could find something that gets me in the wheelhouse of that, something that I'm satisfied with, gets me close enough to me, but still is going to knock off some of that price. Oh, that's definitely something that I'm going to go for. I think Charm, you and me were talking about Full House, Joe Milano, Game of Spades. That one for me, while it's not, it's a little bit sweeter than Imagination, just a little bit at the top. It's probably the closest interpretation to Imagination that I found, right?
It's the closest one that I think of.
Yeah, so I could deal with that, and man, as that thing has sat, by the way, over the last 6-7 months, it has got better and better and better. So for me, I could deal with that one and be like, okay, I'm completely satisfied. I don't need imagination. At least I say that right now. Now, later down the line, it might be a different story. But yeah, so price point is a big thing. There are some clones though that I look at and I'm like, okay, I like what this is doing better than the original. That Fierte I was mentioning a little while ago. While I love Baby Cat and I love that original DNA, that Fierte, for some reason, it's more appealing because it does have a little bit of a smoother vanilla in the bottle. It's got just enough of a little bit of an alteration to make it, I think, a little bit more, at least entry point, mass appealing. One of the fragrances, and this might be sacrilege to some of y'all, but one of the fragrances that is really big for me when it comes to that variation side is Cedrat Essence, right? I got Cedrat Essence before, well, not before I smelled Cedrat Boisé, but it had been a while since I smelled Cedrat Boisé. And I smelled that Cedrat Essence, and it became one of those that's a compliment. It has a compliment factor to it because it does amp up the amberness, amp up the vanilla. It gets smooths it out. It makes it a little bit more mass appealing. Cedrat Boisé is a little bit more leathery. It's a little more deep. It's a little bit more of animalic of a fragrance, right? So side by side, that Cedrat Essence was more mass appealing. And to be honest, for me, it was like, oh, I like this better than I like the Cedrat Boisé because it was a little bit smoother. It had more of a compliment factor. Don't get me wrong, I get compliments on Cedrat Boisé too. But just that little alteration, just that little twist made me like, you know what? I'm going to go for this. And I have both of them in my collection, and I don't feel like it's redundant. So I have started looking for clones that have a little bit of a twist to them, something that's added that makes it a little bit more unique. At least that's for me.
Got it. All World Fragrances, I want to, hopefully in the chat, you'll explain that. I'm going to, because I want a healthy discussion and I want to understand what's being talked about. I'm a little behind, but I'm trying to catch up. So, some people, Game of Space Wildcard. I think Game of Space Wildcard is a pretty good rendition of Lafayette Street. I have both of those. And that one, Liquid Broom, again, is the Runway by Alexander Fragrances can replace the original. That's one. I'm sorry.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Brandon Jones with Bo Elegante. He's gonna come in with that. All right. So
I'm not even gonna comment on that. If I give you the Naxos take, y'all might disconnect me from the live.
No. Everybody has their own thing, and I'm not disconnecting anybody. It's all subjective. So I definitely say it's all subjective.
Oh yeah.
What I will say is things in the lineup of, say, like Naxos or things that are more of a niche quality. When I say niche quality, I'm saying it's not kind of designer, it's not linear. It has a good opening, mid, and dry down transition. Those are harder for clones to try to get exactly one-to-one. They really can't do it. And usually they get to the point where they're picking a phase of one of their transitions, and then they're mimicking that, and they stay with that. So,
and you make a good point, because another fragrance like that, where you're talking about where it's not a hard scent profile to duplicate, is Tarathi Blue, which is a clone of Bulgari Tiger.
Yeah.
Like, why would I pay $400 for Bulgari Tiger? It's like a citric, woody, freshy. I mean, I feel like, you hadn't asked me my thoughts on it yet. I do feel like with some of the more, like the more expensive fragrances that are more like freshies and just kind of, your clean citric, scents. a lot of these clones get that DNA down enough, like to your point, Charm, where it's such a linear scent profile that,
right,
you know, it's not that, I mean, obviously there's a quality difference because, you know, I'm at a point now where I've smelled some niche fragrances and, you know, your nose matures and all of that good stuff. And you notice the difference between, you know, a niche quality fragrance and a, you know, and a clone or, you know, or even a designer. But sometimes with those linear, like just easy to duplicate scent profiles, a lot of times the clones, you know, scratch that itch for me, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Gator made a point about cost. You know, I think too, with us creating content and things like that, a lot of times we are, you know, acquiring these fragrances or buying the fragrances to do reviews on. And obviously a good chunk of people that watch our content, you know, everybody can't afford $300, $400 fragrances. A lot of people are looking for affordable options to smell good. Because, you know, shout out to Dedrick again. He says it all the time. You ain't got to break the bank, you know, to smell good. And that's true. You don't. And so for me, you know, it's a number of different factors. It's sometimes the cost of the OG. Sometimes it's the scent profile, you know, of the OG that will prevent me from going that route. But if it's something a little more complex or what have you, I will at the very least, try to get my hands on, you know, a sample of the OG so I can at least maybe have that, you know, have that experience. You know, like for example, I got a sample of Lamar by Kajal. I was like, I don't care how many clones come off of that fragrance. I gotta get the no. I need the real thing. You know what I mean? Same thing. I recently got my nose. I had never smelled Dior Fahrenheit Le Parfum. I had never smelled that, and I got a sample of it. And Fragrance World has a clone of it, but I'm like, nah.
No,
I gotta. No. I'll shell out the money and get the Dior because in some instances I have experienced the clone before the OG. But if there are scenarios where like I get a sample of the OG first, like with Lamar and, you know, Fahrenheit Le Parfum, I'm like, there's no way. I don't care how good you tell me the clone smells. I gotta go with the OG. But, you know, like I said, it's a number of factors. Now it's cost. You know, we create content on it. So a lot of times just grabbing it, you know, to talk about it and even giving it away or selling it down the line if it's something you don't necessarily like. But a lot of people can't, you know, the economy's not that great. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't afford these super duper expensive, you know, fragrances. And so to have those options and to be able to, you know, provide that information to people out there to say, hey, you know, you can still smell good and buy a $30 fragrance. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm saying, Scent Bubble brought up a good side topic, and these are definitely things that we can, you know, chop up more. But clones have gotten a lot better. When you think about it, when Club de Nuit, Intense Man, EDT first came out, most clones were more miss than hit. But then when Club de Nuit, Intense Man came out, even the EDT, even though that opening was just wow out there, but once it kind of settled, it was a really good one that people really liked. And now there are so many that are hits, like Vintage Radio. I know people who say they got Paragon and they got Vintage Radio, and they don't even spray their Paragon anymore. They just spray Vintage Radio all the time.
Yeah.
So we can't say that clones have gotten bad, and some clones last forever. Club de Nuit Intense Man lasts for 10 hours on screen. And as they get better and better, then there still comes to this clash. Now, the one thing that I will say, and I'm gonna get for this is I want to get a Alexandria or Dua version of, say, like Roja De La Nuit #2, De La Nuit #3. I want to get some of the more intricate fragrances and see, can they really match that? Because the question of what I've done in the research, and like I said, I'm going to devote just like probably a little video that goes through how they make a cologne fragrance.
Yeah.
They do use some naturals. It all depends on the price, but they will not use a very expensive natural, and they'll try to get a synthetic equivalent to try to match that scent. And there are people that are involved in that. There are people that compare it to the original, and the computer is actually doing a spectral analysis of the original fragrance, and they're breaking that down. As things get better and better, I'm not saying clones are weak in a sense, because there are some clones that really, really hit. So what do you guys take on that?
Oh man, there are some clones that. Oh, go ahead, B.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Gator. You got it.
No. I was just gonna say there's some clones that'll outlast the OG.
Yeah.
Most definitely, man. There's, matter of fact, I mean, vintage radio. The later versions of Paragon, at least the ones that I got a bottle maybe about a year ago, and it seemed like it didn't have the same punching power that it used to. But that vintage radio, when I was, first using that, man, it lasts all day. It definitely increased the potency of the fragrance. Art of Universe, while it's a little bit more of a brutish form of that Blue Talisman DNA, it lasts all day. Blue Talisman on me goes super skin scent within the first 3 to 4 hours, while Art of Universe is pumping and pushing off my skin into that hour 4, 5, 6. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these clones, if you're formulating a clone with the intent of increasing performance, then I'm all for that, man. And so there's a lot of them out there that get a lot better performance than the fragrance that they're inspired by.
Okay. All World Fragrances, he was saying Amir Oud broke his hand up, so that's why he didn't like that one. But so there is something, and I'm trying to formulate it, is that these clones are coming out, and there are different reasons why to buy clones. One, I bought clones because the original is gone. Like 1 Million Privé, I just got a clone of that one a few months ago.
Is it this one?
That one. Yeah. Yep.
I'm wearing it right now. It's my scent. I'm wearing my scent. This is good.
I should have asked you what your scent of the day was.
This is what Milano Privé.
Yeah, Milano Privé. I ordered that because 1 Million Privé is not in.
Right.
So I have that one as a clone. That one I have the clone of Fave Delicios. That one I have because so in those lights you can't get the original.
Right.
Plum Japanese you can't get anymore. But what I heard, and I haven't gotten that one, Alexandria just isn't there. It just doesn't get you there. But so there are some reasons these clone fragrances come in. Blue Electric, I tried both of those, Jack of Spades and the one by Grandeur Elite. So those are ones that there's a market for that. Yeah. So that is one, and then so if they discontinue a fragrance, sometimes you have no other choice. Yeah, or you're gonna go on eBay, hope they took care of it, and you're gonna pay 3 times the price of it. You'll pay $1,000 for $150, $200 Blue Electric. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, another one is I have Fragrance World has a Amen Pure Malt by Mugler clone. That's a discontinued fragrance. It's called Starman Nebula.
I have that
Nebula.
That's a great point. Like if you're trying to get a scent DNA of a fragrance that's discontinued, and you were talking about Dua Charm, and so I got a Dua. Even though this is kind of a summertime or kind of like a warm weather, but it's a bit more complex. Like Burlington 1819 by Roja. Dua has a dupe of that, and I purchased it, and I'm like, it's not quite, it's not quite there. But on the flip side, they do Blue Talisman, which is probably a little more linear and maybe a little more easier to duplicate, and that's probably one of my favorite clones. It's called Mystical Amulet of Blue, and it's a clone of Blue Talisman, and that one's really good, and it lasts like 8 to 10 hours. Like that one goes. But the Burlington 1819, to your point about maybe more complex, scent profiles, because that fragrance has a ton of notes in it. Like it's a lot going on with Burlington 1819, and Dua doesn't quite hit the mark with that one to me. It's okay, but it's not the best.
That was one, like, I did get the Alexandria's version of Blue Talisman because I couldn't find Blue Talisman.
Right. Yeah.
When the hype was really out for Blue Talisman, it was gone everywhere. And then there was I don't know, I'm getting into more of paying higher prices for freshies or fresh fragrances. But to me, that's kind of, when I think of a $300 fragrance, I'm thinking of something, an amber, something with some depth to it.
Me too. Exactly.
But I'm actually getting to the point where I can justify in my mind to buy a fresh fragrance. One of the ones that I really had liked a whole lot was Fragrance du Bois' Heritage. But Fragrance du Bois' Heritage is like $500 discount. And it's a fresh fragrance. It is a spring summer fragrance, but it smells really good. But I just couldn't justify getting it, and I ended up getting Pico Valderrama instead. It's kind of similar with the kind of like an aldehydic type, but it just, Heritage was my favorite. But I just didn't see myself spending that kind of money.
That's like afternoon swim is orange and ginger. I'm sorry. I got Northstad Quatre by Paris Corner. It's orange and ginger. It does the same thing.
I'm not about to.
Charm,
I'm not.
Don't mess with my Louis Vuitton.
Look, I'm not about to spend $300 on Pacific Chill. I'm just not. I love. Oh, trust me. Matter of fact, my scent of the day is what I'm wearing right now. That's the new vibe, that John Lewis vibe. Just to kind of test it out a little bit. It's a Pacific Chill clone. Love that DNA. I ain't paying $350 for it. Like, it's just now that. But that brings up a point. I found, like, Meech. Shout out to you, by the way, for doing the one designer, one niche for each season. I found when I was doing that tag, man, most of my fresher fragrances are designer. Like, I didn't have a lot of like freshy niche fragrances. And now, do you guys have that same kind of issue? Like, when you think about your collection as it is right now, do y'all see, that you're getting more designer in that fresh zone, and for the deeper fall and winter stuff, that's when you get into, more of the niches?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I would say yes and no, but lately now I've been getting more. Like last year for the summer, I bought more fresh fragrances than I ever bought, and I bought more niche fresh fragrances. Renaissance is like one of my favorite fresh fragrances, and that is definitely not linear. It has a good transition with the opening with the citrus and the orange and the mint, and then the amber and musk in the base, that one, and the vanilla. That one is one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of what other ones that I think are kind of like a fresh fragrance that has a lot of depth to it. But Burlington 1819, I have that has a lot of depth to it as well. I hate that I can't wait until my fragrances are going to be with me all the time. Because I can look back and see, and I'm looking back and I'm seeing only a couple fragrances. But
when I think about some of my niche fragrances, Gator, to be honest, I mean, like, I think not everybody, but when you're kind of just dipping your toe in a niche, you kind of start with, maybe Mancera because, they're a little more affordable. But even when I think about those, like I got Aquawood, Vetiver Sensual, Oud Lemon Mint. I mean, Oud Lemon Mint has a little bit of depth, to it. Yeah. Even like most recent, like I bought Bois Imperial recently. Those are all kind of fresher. I don't know that I really, as far as, I do have some niche that have, it's kind of a mix, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think I have some fresh, then I have a little bit that have depth. I actually love, somebody just talked about Aventus Cologne. That's like my favorite probably version of Aventus. I love Aventus Cologne. But yeah, so I think it's a mix. But lately, it seems like a lot of my niche purchases have been more on the fresher side, just because that's kind of been a little bit of my focus. I'm trying to will, some warm weather, so I've kind of been, been buying. I live in the Midwest, man, so it's cold. So I've been trying to buy some spring, summer stuff just to kind of hope spring comes sooner than later.
Yeah,
right. I've been making the effort for it, definitely, because I know I picked up that Aqua de Parma, that Mandarino de Sicilia. That's a really fresh Mandarin orange, like photorealistic Mandarin orange and peel. Still Life in Rio. That's another freshie. I love that stuff, man. This is bright citrus with some coconut in the background. As it gets into that late dry down, it smells like vacation, straight up. And a lot of times I don't even think about the Manceras because you already know me. I got like a lot of those Manceras.
You got a lot of Manceras, I know.
So here's one with all we're fragrances saying. Most people have the opinions about how they don't have to purchase the original because of how the clone smells, and they have never smelled the original. So one thing that I do in almost every one of my videos when I have the clone, I also have the original that I compare it to, and I like to give a comparison on that. And for the most part, I'll just say for the most part, it is the original is a better quality of it. And I talk about pulling my boy out. I shouldn't say it like that. The little boy that basically calls BS on people saying that that the clone smells better. I can't in any time say that the clone. There are very few that I can say the clone smells better. Even Liquid Broom. Liquid Broom is very close.
Yeah.
But when you smell it side by side of Altair is a richer, deeper smell. But Liquid Broom gets you 90-95% there. Yeah. And in the air, you will not tell a difference. Like if somebody walked by you with Liquid Broom, you wouldn't tell you wouldn't tell a difference. But that's one. But like Amber Oud by Roja, I don't know if anybody could do that. Yeah. Spirit of Dubai Narcissi, I don't think anybody could. And that's why I want to check out, because Alexandria and Dua have some of those, and I'm gonna get some samples of those and put them to the test. But I really think that everybody should at least smell the original. And sometimes smelling the original, don't just put it on a tester strip. Don't just go to like Neiman Marcus and spray it on a tester strip and think you smelled the original. Because if you haven't spent time with it, then you won't experience it. You have to really experience that fragrance and spend time with it. And if you smell it once and then 2 months later you get the inspiration, you're like, oh no, that smells exactly like it. You need them having side by side, and you need to really, really go through that. But
it's funny.
And it kind of
go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say that's Charm's way of telling me I need to buy imagination. I see what you did there. I see what you did. But that's a good point. I try to be careful because a lot of my content on my channel, I mean, I talk about everything, but I do talk about a lot of clone fragrances. So if I have not smelled the original, I usually say that in the video. And I kind of talk about it, kind of as a standalone fragrance. I may later try to get the original, then I'll come back and maybe do, like a versus battle where you're, kind of comparing the two fragrances. But one thing I never do, even if I may like a clone fragrance over the OG or feel like the clone is a good substitute for me over the OG, I never say the clone is better than the OG. Like I wouldn't, disrespect the OG,
Yeah.
I guess, in that manner. I just I'll maybe explain why I feel like the clone is a better alternative, maybe for me personally and potentially for someone who's watching my video.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's nothing wrong with the sampling scenario. I think you do get a better idea of what a fragrance does and performs and how it performs when you do wear it on skin. Usually before I do a review, I'll wear a fragrance a couple of times, 3 or 4 times, like full wearing, just to see, because fragrances do change. And they're made chemically to change on your skin. When it heats up, it does something different. All of those notes and things that they put in there, they blend, but they also have a purpose, and how the scent progresses on the skin throughout the day. That being said, I think that and I think I used this example when I was talking to you, Charm. If you got this, I look at fragrances almost like, you've got an original fragrance. You got Saquon Barkley, right? You got this, number 26, 6'3", you know what I'm saying? And this is your original fragrance. This is the work of art. This is what you're going for. You can have somebody that's 6'3", throw on that number 26, and go out there and run, but it's not going to be Saquon Barkley. Now that person might actually get you, it looks like it, and it might, get you a few yards or what, but it's not a true interpretation of what that player is. So to get that true interpretation, you actually have to get that player. Like I said, I could get a number 26 and throw him out there, and he might do decent, but he's not going to be number 26. To think of it in that term, you may not be able to afford a Saquon Barkley on your team. So you'll be okay with saying, okay, I'll take this number 26 that's going to get me just enough yardage and possibly give me some touchdowns, So it's nothing wrong with having that clone there, and they do fill a space if you can't get, the work of art, but you still have to understand that original is a work of art. It's hard to imitate what that original fragrance does, especially your more complex niche type of fragrances. Some designers as well. Some designers are simple. So hell, some niches are simple. We just talked about a designer in Louis Vuitton, Afternoon Swim. That's a simple DNA to clone. I don't know if I'm going to spend $400 on that DNA. No way. I'm not going to get Saquon. I'll go with the other 26 for something like that, because
it's going to get me that's a good 26, man. So
right, exactly, because it's going to get me to where I need to go. But for more of your complex fragrances, then you probably do want to get something that's going to be a truer representation of the art. And you can't get nothing truer than that representation than getting the actual art. So I think it's nuance to it, but that's kind of how I look at it,
So just in general, what's your considered kind of sweet spot? And the people in the chat, I'm curious on what your thoughts are too. Like for a fragrance, what do you consider kind of the sweet spot that you'd be willing to pay for? Niche, let's just say.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that there's necessarily for me a sweet spot. I guess it just depends on, I don't know. I guess it just depends on the fragrance. It depends on the scent profile, the scent DNA. like I said, I mean, and I know you can get Lamar pretty from discounters pretty reasonably priced for a for a niche fragrance. But when I initially smelled the sample of that, I was like, there's, I don't want a clone of this. I want the OG. So I don't know if there's necessarily outside of LV, Charm. I'm sorry, I don't know if there's necessarily.
There's a lot of people talking about LV. They're like,
I don't know if there's necessarily a price tag I would put on it. It's just kind of I don't know. It's just kind of like a feel. I don't know how else to describe it. If it's something that I really like I've been looking at, what is it? I think it might be an Arabian Oud fragrance. It's not Dewan. It's Amiri, I think. And so is Amiri by Arabian Oud?
Yeah, Amiri.
Okay,
Amiri.
Yeah. So that's one that like I smelled a sample of it and I'm like, man, I want a full bottle of that. And so, but I don't even think that's super pricey, even on discounters, or is it?
Discounters, it's not.
Yeah, so that's probably a bad example, but yeah, I guess it's one of those things where I kind of play by ear and feel. And if I do go that route, I might have to, go on a no buy for a little while and save up some ducats. But yeah, it's kind of more of a feel thing for me.
Yeah, we definitely gonna get you on here, Scent Bubble. We definitely gonna get you on here.
Oh yeah, man.
You were one of the reasons why I have this coming on, because you were kind of like the other spectrum, and Suits is the other. You guys are like polar opposites. But I gotta get Suits on when you come on, because that will be the most interesting.
Yeah, definitely, man. Sweet spots, man. I it's weird because I do reviews, so I end up getting a lot of DNAs, and it's hard to say where the sweet spot is for me. I think I decant everything that I get. Usually I'll get the OG and I'll have the clone. At least I have a decant of the OG and the clone. And I think the sweet spot for me is that 90%, as far as like where it is in relativeness to how close it is to the OG, and I've been doing this a lot more. If it has something, a twist of something, or something that does a little different than what the OG does. I think we were talking about Clubbed in the Weed Lionheart, and I know Ross had it on his channel when he was talking about how he loves the fact that it has a peppermint note at the top. It's got a little bit more peppermint in the top than the actual Lamal elixir, and that makes it a fresher fragrance. I am in complete agreement with that. I will take the Lionheart because of the fact that it does have a fresher feel to it. Aqua Dubai, while the Full House is closer to the OG, Aqua Dubai has something different in it. It's got a little bit more of a masculine lean to it that I actually like. And for me, that is like, oh, this is a little bit different. It's it's more of a compliment puller than even my imagination when I'd wear that. So it really just kind of depends.
It's nuclear, so it projects. I will say Aqua Dubai definitely projects.
Yeah,
and I got a lot of compliments when I was wearing it to kind of test it out. I kept meaning to do a video on it to compare it to Full House, but it
definitely pushes. It definitely pushes.
Yeah, man. So that's I don't. It's hard to say if I have a specific sweet spot, but I will say that it a lot of it comes into the enjoyment of it as well. Because if it's a fragrance, like one of the fragrances I like is Spectre Wraith, right? Spectre Wraith is a inspiration of Black Phantom. As much as I like that fragrance, it's not Black Phantom because there is more nuance and depth into that fragrance. Can I get away with Spectre Wraith and people not notice? Yeah, but I notice. and one of the things that I've kind of started distinguishing, some people do wear fragrances so that other people can smell them and so that other people can say, ooh, what are you wearing? And then some people wear fragrances for themselves.
Right.
I've become more of not just wearing the fragrance for them, but wearing the fragrance for me. And that's when now I'm starting to appreciate the art of the fragrance more. It's not just, oh, it feels like this, it projects like this. What is it that in that third or fourth hour that I'm smelling that's distinct with this work of art that I'm wearing? I'm starting to appreciate that more. And I've noticed that my taste is starting to move more now. It's starting to move more towards the niche because now I'm sitting there and I'm like, Fan Your Flames is a work of art. The way that that it moves and the way that it has all of those different profiles and things that move in it. That's the direction I'm in now. Nothing wrong with smelling good, but I want to smell good for me too. I want to be able to turn my shoulder and oh man, that's nice. And I can't get the full experience with a lot of the interpretations, quote unquote, clones that are out there. Now, if I'm just smelling good for everybody else, fine. They can smell Club de Nuit in the air and think that it's Aventus, and that's great. Yeah. But I know.
Right. And that's an interesting point that Gator makes, because 99.999% of the people aren't going to know the difference between you wearing Nishane's Ani or Spectre Ghosts by Fragrance World. The only person that's really going to know is you personally, and maybe someone out there who might be a frag head. So the reality is, in my opinion, you're really buying these fragrances and wearing them for you personally, because most of the world have only heard of, Dior, Chanel, the things that they see in department stores. They haven't heard of the Nishanes or the Initios or the Unique Luxury or any of these, niche brands that, we may all like. So at the end of the day, listen, I find myself getting compliments. I have this $18 Fragrance World fragrance called Hardwood that gets me crazy compliments. I was in the line voting, and these three older ladies were in line with me while I was early voting, and they were like, "Oh, young man, you smell so nice." And it's like, I bought this fragrance for $18 off of Amazon. And then I have these other, more expensive, complex fragrances that, somebody smells and they might turn their nose up at it, but we appreciate the art. But, the masses really kind of gravitate more towards the kind of the mass appealing, scent profiles.
So there's a couple things on that, but if I keep my thought pattern, one, I really don't have a sweet spot. It all depends on the type and the structure of the fragrance of what I would spend. So because I've spent quite a bit of change, not suits change, not $3,500 for one fragrance, but I have spent over $1,000 for a fragrance. But the other thing is with Nosy saying, and welcome Nosy. Nosy is the one I was talking about when I said he has vintage radio and he uses vintage radio, and he's got Paragon, but he uses vintage radio because he's been spraying that more than he sprays the Paragon. But he asked a question of all things even, would you still prefer the inspiration over the original?
I guess it just all depends on. I guess it all depends on the fragrance, Like I said, I have the two. I have the Must Therapy. Major pause on. They're talking about the hardwood. I usually say pause.
Yeah,
after I talk about my channel, I'm like pause. So my bad, guys. I didn't do it here. But
it's gotta be Dame. But yeah.
But like I was talking about the Must Therapy, clone that I have, and I have the OG as well. I guess it just depends on one, how close you think that scent profile from the inspiration comes to the original's DNA, And if you're good with that, and like in that instance, like I don't feel like I need to pay $200 for, you know, a full bottle of Must Therapy, because that fragrance, you know, gets that scent profile down enough for me where I'm now. The quality, of course, is different, but what we're finding now with clone fragrances, and this is something we haven't even touched on, the clone fragrances are now coming out with their own tiers in terms of like the quality of their fragrances. So like Fragrance World has their French Avenue line, which is kind of like their higher quality
right.
clone. So and they're pretty good for the most part. I have a handful of French Avenues, and I don't think there's one that I have that I don't like. And the quality on them is fairly decent. So I guess just to answer your question, I guess it just depends on the fragrance, if you've compared it to the OG, and you know how close that inspiration gets to whether or not you're gonna select it. I think there's cases where the answer to that is I'm fine with the inspiration, and then there's going to be some cases where I'm going to go with the OG.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. I am definitely the same way, because there's a lot of fragrances that I can sit back and say, okay, I'm good enough with the clone. You know, I mean, Millesime Imperial. You talk about Milestone. That's one that is like, okay, well, I could deal with that. Nice, fresh amber fragrance, whatever. You know, there's a lot of them that are like that. Carlisle, completely different monster. Get that corn out of my face. This is Carlisle. I'm getting Carlisle. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing no imitation of Carlisle, and I get it. There's a lot of them that are super close. Nah, it's all right. No, I'm sticking with my Carlisle. So it really does depend on the fragrance for me. You know, if I could find one interpretation that's good enough, then that's fine. It's just that a lot of fragrances, I am just not going to find an interpretation that's not good, that is good enough. As much as I like Wild Card, Game Space Wild Card, it's missing that apple note, because heck, Lafayette Street used to be my signature scent. It's missing that little apple note, that aromaticness at the top, and when it gets into that dry down in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, you can't really tell them apart. But for that first hour and a half, I can tell them apart. I know that it's missing that apple, so that's a no-go. Let me get the bond number 9.
Yeah, you know what's another determining factor for me too on that, to piggyback off of that, if I could, if it's a scent profile that either is just kind of like so-so to me, or if it's a scent profile that I know is going to have little utility for me, like I'm only going to grab it a few times a year, that might be one where I might be content rocking with the clone. Like, for example, I love Gary's Den Le Parfum by FOMO, which is a Dior Homme Parfum clone. Dior Parfum, I love the way it smells, but I don't wear that fragrance a lot. It's not the most versatile, you know, scent profile in the world. So because I'm only wearing that fragrance, I'm going out somewhere nice, a nice date, dinner, you know, what have you, I'm dressing up a little bit, I might throw that style of fragrance on, which may be a handful of times. I'm cool with Gary's Den, you know, Le Parfum as a, you know, versus buying, you know, Dior Homme Parfum. I just got a clone, a Lattafa clone of Smoking Hot by Killian. I think it's called Mashrabia or something like that. It's by Lattafa. It's really good, but I'm like, where am I gonna wear that? You know what I mean? It's like super smoky, kind of has this like apple shisha type of vibe going on. It's like, how often am I gonna wear that? So I'm not running to the hills to go buy Smoking Hot. I got the DNA in my collection. I'm cool with that.
I saw your video on that with me. And I was like, I had Mashrabia. It was one that I didn't even do the review on. I just went in and packed it up and sent it back. I was so mad. I smelt it, and I was like, because people were hyping it up, and I smelt it, and you know, I was like, I'm ready to do the review on it. I don't like doing. I will do a negative review on a like Atlas was one of them that I did a negative review on.
That's the Mega
I
Mirror
don't.
clone, right? Mega Mirror.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't mind doing negative reviews, but I smelled it and I was like, this smells like straight up hookah.
It does. It smells just like hookah. It smells like apple, cigar, incense. It's very smoky.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to smell like hookah. So I and sent it back. I'm getting to this point now where I like my fragrances to smell like fragrances, like like something wearable. And there's a lot of fragrances that are out there that just smell like they could be a candle.
Yeah.
And I'm
and
like,
that's one of them.
yeah, that's one of them. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I don't want to smell like a candle. I'd rather go, but I should have went ahead and did the review on it. But I was just like, nah, I'm sitting it back.
Yeah. I haven't done a whole lot of negative reviews because for the most part I'm buying this stuff. Now I do blind buy a lot of stuff, but I have been pretty good about the choices that I get. So here's one thing Six Moss is talking about. Infracon clones are synonymous with Middle Eastern cheapies. I think that's a misnomer though. I don't, because Middle Eastern they have some high quality stuff that people overlook, like Al Karachi blend. A lot of people overlook that, but they look at Boadicea de Victorias, which, I mean, you talk about, they have a lot of inspirations. They have but they're not a cheap house,
right?
But they have a lot of inspirations. A lot of their fragrances smell a whole lot like other fragrances. But Middle Eastern is not necessarily just cheap. And I think they may be, and some of them are cheaper in price, but there are a lot of nice Middle Eastern brands that aren't clone brands. And hopefully that kind of misnomer will go away. But
and I mean, someone made the point in the chat too that, like, in some cases, some of these niche houses are really, cloning a lot of other fragrances. I'm not going to pick on Bond number 9, but a lot of fragrance, a lot of niche houses, people just copy and get inspiration from from each other. But I mean,
but Bond number 9 is not the only one, man, Sarah. Because if you look at the 2024 releases for Mancera,
right,
all of them had this kind of almost like they were inspired by other fragrances. Amberful, I love Amberful, but there is a lot of Ganymede in there. There is a lot of those fresh citric style fragrances in that. It's like an amalgamation
Ganymede,
of all of those.
Yeah,
Eternal Wood.
It's a little greenly in there too.
Greenly. Yeah, Eternal Wood. I love Eternal Wood, but pause. But that particular fragrance is like it's a mix of Oud for Greatness, and it has a little bit of Azzaro the Most Wanted in there, and a little bit of Haultain in there. And like I always say, that Eternal Wood is like if Azzaro the Most Wanted had an elixir, it would be that. That's what that is. But it's like, man, Sarah's been taking a lot. The new one, that Fig Me Up, which I can't wait to get my hands on. If you look at the note breakdown and the way that thing breaks down, that thing looks like it's a mix of one of those Tom Fords and it looks like a Plum Japonais inspiration is what it looks like. Okay. So I think some of these niche houses are starting to look at a lot of these more popular DNAs and saying, we could jump on that, use higher quality ingredients, higher quality aroma chemicals, and upcharge it.
Yeah. So here's a question: if price was taken out of it, and I understand kind of the question, but then it's hard to take price out of it. But if price was taken out of it, what would you choose, the original or the clone?
Depends. It really depends on the one.
I mean, for me, you probably are going to go with the OG in that instance. I would think, but yeah, because under what scenario would you, if money, you're saying money's not an issue, price is not a problem. I'm probably gonna go with the OG.
Yeah,
you know?
for the most part. If money wasn't the issue, for the most part, I would always go with the OG because the OG is the one.
Agreed.
Now, there are some where the OG, what about when the OG doesn't perform? It doesn't last. But then they make one. We talked about sort of like Aventus. Some of the formulations of Aventus don't last. I know the man, he has a 2012 Aventus. His lasts all day long, but some of the other ones don't. There's some other ones that don't. Tobacco Mandarin by Barredo doesn't really perform that well.
Yeah.
However, Tobacco Sapphire by Boadicea the Victorious, which smells in the 85% range, does. So I have Tobacco Sapphire. Now it was a lot more expensive, but Tobacco Mandarin wasn't cheap itself as well. But it's got something that I like, that scent DNA, I like the scent profile, and I'm willing to pay for that experience.
Yeah. I'm like that, man. I think that, if it has a little bit more performance, then I may actually go with the inspired by. So that's why I was kind of hesitant. It's like, okay, do I go with the, if I ain't got no salary cap, right? and I could get a team full of Saquons and
get all the Saquon Barkleys you want, man.
And I get all the Saquons and Mahomes and everything I want to, then I'm probably getting those OGs, man. In reality, of course, we all got a salary cap, and I could afford like an imagination. If I could afford the imagination, I may not be able to afford the Carlisle. So I'm gonna have to, go with something that's gonna be closer to that DNA. It depends on what my salary cap is. So that being said, yes, I'm usually gonna go with the OG unless there's something that is better with that clone that will make me say, you know what, I think I'll go with the clone. It's gonna last longer on skin. There's something, Cedrot Essence, another one. Again, that particular fragrance has a vanilla note, makes it a little bit more mass appealing and all that kind of stuff. So, I would rather have both. Okay. It's not redundant to have a Cedrot Essence and a Cedrot Boise in your collection. But if I had to choose one, it'd be the OG.
We got Suits in the house. So we are going to kind of wrap this up right here right now. But we got Suits and Scent Bubble. Those are the two, along with you guys, that I want to bring back. And just to talk really quickly before we start to close out, next Monday I will do, this is Lartison, and this is actually House of Ira. So that's next Monday. I'm interviewing the house owner there. Maybe we will get together and figure out another day that we can do this. But next Monday, I have the House of Ira. The Monday after that, I have Caroma, K-Sense, the House of Caroma's Aroma. So
I'm still waiting on my discovery set from them too. I know I gotta hit them up.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I think it got lost in the mail because I've been excited about getting that fragrance from that house.
It's really nice. It's really nice. So those are the 2 Mondays that I got coming up. I actually am starting to have a booking schedule. But I do want to get us together, and maybe we'll have to figure out another day, maybe not Mondays, but we'll get together and have this part 2, because I really want to get Suits' take on it. I really want to get the Scent Bubble, because that gives us a more broader perspective. But I really appreciate it, and I've been keeping it to about an hour and a half at most, and we're running into 2-hour phase. So I really appreciate you guys coming on the channel, talking. I know we streamed out to your channels as well. I hope that anyone who is not subscribed to Sillage Saint and Novice Knows, that you will check them out, give them a like, give them a subscribe. It's always good to have the fragrance community back each other. I always say the fragrance community is large enough and there's enough content that you don't have to try to keep a subscriber to yourself, but it gives you more of an opportunity to see a whole array of people who are out here making fragrance content. So
yeah,
I really appreciate it, guys. When we close, stick around. I just want to talk to you guys after the show stops. But we really are going to back this and bring this back up. I think it's a great topic. I enjoyed it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We kept around that 30 to 40 mark all throughout the whole show. So I think it's something that people did enjoy as well. But hopefully,
man.
Yeah, we will.
I just want to thank you for having us on here, man.
Yeah,
because
appreciate you,
this is definitely a necessary conversation because you know there's a lot of people out there that are just diametrically opposed. They're either on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence. So these conversations are necessary, you know, so that we can kind of get everybody together and, you know, understand that we got to understand what's going on, you know. So I definitely appreciate you having us on, man.
Yeah, and there's enough room for everybody. I think, you know what I mean.
Heck yeah.
You like clones, you like niche, you designer. I think, you know, and I think it's content creators that touch on all of those things that give everybody what they need. But coming together and having these kind of discussions are valuable. So Charm, appreciate you having us on for sure.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show. We are going to leave with a song, and then we'll catch you on the next one.
No, I am not special ed, but I can be the magnificent. Put your fragrances to bed, eclectic with my sense. To be at the top of my game, my passion, my mission. Breaking down notes like nuclear fission, calling them out with a sniff, my only clue. Waving my hands like Aaron Terrence Hughes, a master with the fragrances, you know the score. Put a layer and blend together, drop panties to the floor. Some say it's a rumor, a myth, a lie, but if you wanna get close, then I'm your guy. CHARM